Hello, Andrew. We are here at SUSECON 2017. But just for the sake of this interview, can you please introduce yourself?
Sure, my name's Andrew Wafaa. I'm treasurer on the openSUSE board, been involved with openSUSE for many years and upstream for many years, and I also work at ARM.
If I'm not wrong, your role within ARM has recently changed.
That's correct.
Yeah, so can you please talk quickly about what is your role within ARM?
Sure, so I moved from more of a marketing outward bound facing role to more of an engineering role. So I now head up a team of engineers within our open source engineering group, primarily focused on upstream communities, ensuring that we've got engineers contributing as ARM to those open source projects upstream, helping drive ARM's agenda within those open source projects, assisting those people where they may not necessarily have thought of ARM because everyone's got an x86 machine, unfortunately. So yeah, help out where we can upstream.
You said that ARM's agenda.
Yeah.
So can you?
So with a lot of open source projects, especially nowadays, with the advent of containers, etc., engineers are generally lazy. Which is the ethos of engineering, why do more than you have to kind of thing. So they quite often when they write their code, it's being done against the platform that they have, which is x86. So they do a lot of shortcuts. They not necessarily do hard coding, but they just don't take into account other architectures. So by having our engineers working upstream, it helps ensure that things are cross-platform. It helps us as ARM get the information ahead of time when there's going to be major changes within open source projects, and also help those projects understand when we do changes from a hardware perspective. Once we announce a new architecture or something, that we've got somebody that can help translate what that actually means for the software.
Right. Now let's quickly talk about your involvement with the openSUSE. It's just a joke, that since you work so much on the openSUSE side, that sometimes it appears that ARM pays you to work on openSUSE, or for a long time I believe that you were a SUSE employee, or openSUSE. So can you talk about the work that you have been doing on openSUSE?
Sure. So I mean, I've been involved with openSUSE before there was such a thing as openSUSE. It was SUSE Linux Pro at the time, and that's how I built up my relationship with a lot of people within SUSE, both from an engineering perspective, marketing, and management. And in some respects, when I first joined ARM, I was paid to work on openSUSE. And one of those reasons is that openSUSE is the foundation for SUSE Linux Enterprise. And at ARM, we wanted to have support from SUSE on our architecture. So that was, you're kind of correct. It's not entirely false. But my involvement with openSUSE has spanned, like I say, numerous years, numerous initiatives, shall we say. One of the first things I did was just doing some simple packaging and contributing that to the community. So this was before the days of the open build service. So I package up and I have those packages available in a repo hosted on my home machine, whatever else. Open build service comes along, so it's a natural progression to move there. I was one of the alpha testers of SUSE Studio, so before that became public, and I used that to build an openSUSE version of what was MeeGo at the time. I was heavily involved in the GNOME team within openSUSE, and helped kickstart or re-kickstart the ARM port within openSUSE, and got voted onto the openSUSE board. Did 2 terms, so I did 4 years as an elected member on the openSUSE board, and then I'm coming up to my second year as an appointed member on the board doing the role of a treasurer.
Well, we're talking about openSUSE. Last year, I think openSUSE and SUSE announced support for Raspberry Pi 3.
Correct.
Which is an ARM platform, if I'm
Yep.
not wrong. One of the interesting things was, I mean, we had a conversation last time also that building an ARM infrastructure could be very expensive. You know, you cannot really try it at
Yep.
home, you know, or a lot of companies. So one benefit that was there that you can build the whole racks, you know, of Raspberry Pis,
Yeah.
and, you know, run OpenSUSE or even SUSE Linux there.
Yeah.
I think they were offering SUSE Linux for 1 year for free, but after that you have to pay it. So, but you know, sometimes the development process can take longer than
Yep.
a year. So the one bottleneck was that, you know, openSUSE doesn't, you know, you cannot jump from openSUSE to SLE. You know, they were two different words.
Yep.
So they're coming together ever since the leap happened. And now this year I'm hearing that they're working on a technical as well as, you know, business process where you, as an openSUSE user after 15 release, that you can very easily migrate to the SLE 15, or you can
Yep.
come back from SLE to openSUSE 15. So how do you see that this will enable, you know, developers, you know, to build their own rack of, you know, Raspberry Pis, try everything on openSUSE, and since they're like interchangeable, then, you know, just move their workload to the server?
Yeah, so I mean, openSUSE is very much the development platform, and it has a much wider choice of software than SUSE Linux Enterprise does, and that's on purpose. You know, SUSE need to make sure that they have as small an attack vector as possible on their platform. They ensure that all the security patches are there. So that's fine. But with openSUSE, whilst I'm not saying that none of the security patches are applied, it's just we don't have to be so concerned about the hardening aspect. So openSUSE has a much wider set of software available that people can use to develop their applications, their solutions that they want to use. And it's somewhat of a natural step moving forward between both openSUSE and SUSE to support each other. And this enables people to actually really get down and play with the software, understand the platforms that they're looking at, build it, and then they can go to market on a fully enterprise-ready solution there. So it's a natural fit. It's not from a technical perspective, it's not been straightforward. There's things that need to be done with regards to supporting SUSE's customer center to then be able to, identify the systems to then support them, add your subscription, etc. But yeah, it's quite interesting, and hopefully it enables SUSE to have a good advantage over potentially the competition. One of the things that some of the competition have is, for instance, if we take CentOS, it's effectively a respin of Red Hat Enterprise Linux, and so everything is completely binary compatible. You can easily switch and change. From an infrastructure perspective, I'm not sure whether you can integrate them within Red Hat Satellite to do the support aspect of things, but from a developer perspective, they use CentOS, it's free, it's easy to get up and running, and then when they need a commercial aspect, they would move to Red Hat. So this takes that model one step further, so it integrates completely within SUSE's whole suite.
Right. So you do see, because from ARM's perspective, you're looking for new markets,
Yep.
Because now ARM is getting into data centers, a lot of things. So will it be beneficial for ARM as well?
Yes, definitely. So as far as openSUSE and SUSE are concerned, ARM is just another architecture. There's nothing special about it. When there's a release, ARM's included as part of that release. So we're the same as x86 and as Power in that respect. So we fit in perfectly well. There's nothing different really from the software side of things or the process perspective. It all just works.
And what other commercial distributions are supported on ARM? Or maybe or
so at the moment, from a commercial perspective, so if you want to get some support, etc., on ARM64, you currently have SUSE Linux Enterprise and Canonical with Ubuntu.
Now let's talk about Linaro, because you're also involved with Linaro. So what's your kind of involvement, your kind of...
Sure, so I'll give a very brief high-level overview of Linaro. It's a non-profit engineering organization, and that engineering part is crucial. There is no real marketing arm to it, there's no sales, etc. It is all about ensuring that upstream has the best possible support, and it looks predominantly at core infrastructure pieces from a software perspective, so things like the kernel, toolchain, key libraries, key frameworks, so for instance OpenJDK. A lot of the OpenJDK work on ARM is done within Linaro. There's a lot of work done on hypervisors, so both KVM and Zen, and it's a place where in the ARM space, ARM's an IP company. We don't actually make anything. We license our IP to people like Qualcomm, Cavium, etc. And they are very guarded about their technologies, etc. Generally speaking, the ARM space has not seen a lot of collaboration from hardware vendors. Linaro gives that open, even platform for these companies to actually collaborate together, working on things that everyone needs, so that people can actually differentiate properly than just fragmenting the market, which is what happened before in previous versions of the architecture. So as I look after upstream engagements with a lot of open source projects, Linaro's a natural partner for me to work with, and they have numerous working groups. There's the enterprise server group, there's the network group, home group, mobile group, etc. And so I work closely with both partners and Linaro themselves directly to ensure that everyone's aligned on what needs to be done. We have the discussions that need to be had, raise concerns, try and prompt people when they're not doing what we would like them to do, as in the royal we of being the open source community, not necessarily we as ARM. Because I very much view myself as being representative of upstream first, and then ARM is almost second, not quite. They pay my mortgage, so they have to be fairly high up in the list there. But it's very much driving upstream's agenda throughout our ecosystem.
On the first day of SUSECON keynote, Michael Miller talked about Lego and Raspberry Pi powered excavators being showed, and he was kind of in the science fictional perspective that maybe someday we will have robot fights here, maybe one robot will be powered by RHEL and one will be powered by SUSE Linux, and then we'll see. So with robots, you need to have some kind of machine learning, artificial intelligence, so that it's not that the Red Hat executive are actually controlling them. They should be taking decisions themselves.
Sure.
So coming back to the realistic world, machine learning is a hot topic, and I think this is when you talk about the fourth industrial revolution, it's all about machine learning and all those things there.
Yeah.
So from ARM or SUSE perspective, I do understand that. Of course, you don't represent SUSE per se, but I'm not talking about the product, which is like tensors, but how machine learning can help,
Sure. So I think certainly in the short to medium term, machine learning is going to be very much closely tied to the data analytics piece. You could foresee some machine learning, for instance, doing log monitoring. So everything, all your logs, system logs, etc., are going to a central repository, and machine learning's analyzing those logs, or you having your data analytics go through those logs, and the machine learning piece can identify potential security break-ins or attempts at security penetrations, and can then automatically take on the intelligence piece of, okay, so I'm getting hits from the same IP multiple times per second, etc. Block that IP so it doesn't actually do anything. So I think the whole machine learning is, oh my gosh, the robots are going to take over the world. It's not going to be Terminator. Certainly not in the short to medium term. 20 years from now, who knows? Hopefully I'll have my flying car, but we'll see what happens there.
I mean, we don't have flying cars yet, and people were thinking, 50 years ago that we'll have flying cars. So
yeah, exactly.
I don't worry actually too much about
but yeah, I mean,
Arnold Schwarzenegger's walking around us killing, yeah.
But from ARM's perspective with machine learning and AI, it is a crucial industry that we are targeting. We're looking at, libraries to better support it, looking at potentially how can we make our hardware work better to support machine learning. And there are a variety of use cases where it can be beneficial. There's areas like automotive, there's, from the network space, there's the server side of things, there's the cloud aspect of it where, a lot of that's going to be hosted, will be in the cloud in one shape or form, whether it be a public cloud or a private cloud, etc. And ARM's working very hard with partners to ensure that our architecture can support it as best as possible.
Is there anything else we should talk about today? I think I got everything I was looking for.
Yeah, I mean, other than, look, if you want to play with ARM, try openSUSE. There's a wide variety of support available there for multiple different platforms. We've got ready-made images for most of those platforms, so it's very easy to get up and running. And it's a vibrant, friendly community, so come along, have some fun.
Okay. And then just to wrap it up, when can we really expect a robotic fight at SUSECON, realistically?
Let's see what happens next year at SUSECON 2018. There were plans for this year that didn't quite make it due to holidays and other things. But there's going to be a concerted planning effort starting very soon for next year. So we'll see what we can come up with. It may not necessarily be robot wars, but there may be some robots involved. I'm sure we can throw in a robot war or two if need be. Yeah,
we can bring Nils, we can bring Jim and Mark Shuttleworth, and then they can have the trial by combat, and then they will they will have their own robotic champions there. Red robot, purple robot, and green robot.
Yep.
So that's going to be interesting. We should take this competition to a totally new level, right?
Well, maybe it should be hosted by the Linux Foundation, the Open Source Summit, or something like that.
Yeah, they may not like their members fighting each other, trial by combat.
It's friendly banter.
Yeah, so that means Jim Zemlin will have to sit on the Iron Throne, right?
Yes.
And Greg Hartman can be the hand of the king.
Indeed.
That would be a very good.
Indeed. Yep.
Let's see who's going to be the Daenerys and who's going to be Jon Snow.
Exactly,
right?
and who's going to be Khaleesi. So,
now we are getting too much into Game of Thrones. Anyway, thanks Andrew so much for your time. Hopefully we'll see each other again at DockerCon.
Yep.
Okay.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.